Hey guys, welcome back to the front line. It's your girl Shamar. You know, we've been talking lately about the switcheroo. Okay guys, that's where we're at. We've been talking about the family feud, which led to the switcheroo. Right guys? And then coming to this reality, right? There's a lot to dissect. Right? Last week we talked about Joseph. And I showed you several verses that support the crown being Joseph's. Right, guys? The week prior to that, I showed you Genesis 49. And I showed you the various blessings, quote, that were going to come to some of these sons of Jacob, right? We talked about Judah. We talked about how that verse concerning Judah has been misconstrued, right, guys? In Genesis 49, right? So last week we fast forwarded, we got back on over to Joseph, right? Who has lost the attention of everyone, myself included. So now, we've got to get into Genesis 49 where it talks about Joseph being a fruitful son, right? The branches being the daughters, the bows being the sons, right, guys? But before we can get to the well, I have to slow us down a little bit. Shout out to my lady in the comments who can't wait. I think you're a lady. I'm sorry. I hope if I'm getting your gender wrong, I stand corrected. But I have somebody excited about the wells and about some of the content that we've learned concerning the Mayans, right? Or this word Mayan, which is a Paleo Hebrew word, right? Before we can get to the well, I want to slow down first, guys. I want to show you guys, I got to prove some of the things I'm saying, because I feel like I've taken you guys on the fast forward journey to the fact that Judah's responsible for a lot of the trouble that landed on Israel. Guys, don't get me wrong. Israel's behavior is the reason why they were allowed to be conquered. But I have to show you guys what Judah did. All right, guys. So before we can get to the well, I want to take you guys on a little scenic view. All right, guys. I got to show you these things. So let's go on the scenic view real quick. All right, guys. It's going to concern two things. Okay. What happened with Joseph's line? So the first thing we're going to get into is that the cities testify, right? The second thing I'm going to get into, before we get into the well, guys, I'm going to prove to you guys what happened with Assyria. Who brought Assyria to Israel's doorstep? Okay? Because we know Israel's represented by the 10 tribes in the northern kingdom. So who in the south was orchestrating this? We're going to get to that. Then we're going to get to the wells, because I feel like I really got to hit home to you guys. What happened? The betrayal. Okay? I got to prove that betrayal to you guys, so I'm going to do that. But before we can do that, let's go on this little journey real quick, guys. I want to show you guys, let's talk about a few verses about Joseph, right, guys? So we can see this betrayal. Okay, I want to talk about before we got to Genesis 49, right? Because Genesis 49 talks about the blessing to come to Joseph. But we have to realize that Joseph's sons get the blessing. That's why I keep hollering Ephraim, right, guys? So in this week's episode, let me take you on that journey. Let's go the scenic route. All right, because something happens in Genesis 48, 8 through 20. All right, guys, and I'm going to tell you right now in advance. Yes, this might be a little longer of an episode, but like I always tell y'all, it has to be. It's nothing about this content that is going to be, there is no instant pot for this information, guys. It has to come in a crock pot version because it's way too much to decipher through. All right, so this might be a little longer episode, but let's, before we can talk about, I want to talk about how that transition went from Joseph to Ephraim. All right, let's get into it. Genesis 48, 8 to 20. Then Israel saw Joseph's sons and said, "Who are these?" Joseph said to his father, "They are my sons, whom God has given me in this place." And he said, "Bring them to me, and I will bless them." Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, so that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, "I had not thought to see your face, but in fact, God has also shown me your offspring." So Joseph brought them from beside his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. Then Israel stretched his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and in his left hand on Manasseh's head. So in this motion, there's being an X formed over these two sons' head as a result of the way the hands are being placed. All right, guys, pay attention to that. The X is being formed over Ephraim and Manasseh's head. All right, let's keep going. We're right here. Guiding his hands knowingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn, and he blessed Joseph and said, "God, before whom my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, blessed the lads. Let my name be the name upon them, and the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." Now when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Right, so Joseph is not feeling that. He's realizing that in this act, Jacob is actually bestowing the bigger blessing on the younger, all right, instead of the firstborn, which is the way they always did it, right? All right, right here. And Joseph said to his father, "Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." So he blessed them that day, saying, "By you Israel will bless," saying, "May God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh." Thus he said, Ephraim before Manasseh. It's that habit of the younger going first, right, guys? Right here, Joseph is a fruitful bow by a well. His branches run over the wall, right? These are all of the verses concerning Joseph. And of Joseph he said, "Bless the Lord is in his land with the precious things of heaven, with the dew, the deep lying beneath, with the precious fruits of the sun, with the precious produce of the months, with the best things of the ancient mountains, with the precious things of the everlasting hills, with the precious things of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the bush." Let the blessing come on the head of Joseph. Once again, guys, this is in Deuteronomy. We didn't even touch that last week. All right. "And the crown on the head of him who was separate from his brothers. His glory is like a firstborn bull, and his horns like the horns of the wild ox. Together with them, he shall push the peoples to the end of the earth. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. All right, guys, the blessing is to come on the head of Joseph, right, guys? So, you would say to yourself, where is this line of Joseph then, right? Because the blessing is to come through Joseph, right? Let's go ahead because we covered this person before. All right. One of the first people to come from out of Joseph's lineage, guys. I got to get to the Chronicles. Here we go. Let me show you guys. So if you ever want to know who comes from Joseph, guys, since we know the blessing follows Joseph down to Ephraim and Manasseh, all you need to go is go to First Chronicles. Now they're going to list up here, I think it was Bilhah, who was the concubine from Rachel. They're going to list her children too. All right, guys, I haven't gone through the motion to see if these people were helpful or if they were hinderers. Okay, I'm focused on Ephraim like a laser at this time because I don't have time to waste with any other foolishness. I'm trying to hone in on where the blessing went. So right here, you're going to see in First Chronicles. All right, guys, you're going to see right here, First Chronicles 7. You're going to have Benjamin's people here. All right, guys. But right here, you're going to see Manasseh, which I'm not trying to gloss over Manasseh, all right, because obviously a blessing went to Manasseh too. But I want y'all to focus on Ephraim, the family of Ephraim. Down in verse 20, guys, it says, the sons of Ephraim were, and I'm going to probably jack up some of these names, guys. I'm going to tell you right now, but I'm going to make a good attempt to get through this, all right, because these are our ancestors. The sons of Ephraim were Shethelah, Bered his son, Tahath his son, Elad his son, Tahath his son, Zabad his son, Shethelah his son, and Ezer and Eliad. The men of Gath who were born in that land killed them because they came down to take away their cattle. Then Ephraim, their father, mourned many days, and his brethren came to comfort him. And when he went to his wife, she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name Beriah, because tragedy had come upon his house. Now his daughter was Shirah, who built lower and upper Beth Horon, and Uz and Shirah, which remember, guys, we covered Uz and we covered Shirah before in her story. Go ahead back and look at that video. We covered Shirah before. I told you they've done a cartoon about Shirah, okay? But right here, you're just gonna get these little bit of lines about Shirah. All right, but you're going to hear that Shirah built Beth Horon. All right, and Repha was his son, as well as Reshepha and Telah his son, Tahan his son, Ladan his son, Amehud his son, Elishama his son, Nun his son, and Joshua his son. Now their possessions and dwelling place were Bethel and its town, to the east Naran, to west Gezer to its town, to Shechem in its town, as far as Ayah and its town, and by the borders the children of Manasseh and its town, Megiddo and its town, Dor and its town. In these dwell the children of Joseph, the son of Israel. So Joseph's children are dwelling here, okay? And who comes later on and takes possession? Joshua, okay? Joshua recognizes that this belongs in the family. Shirah built this, okay? Shirah built Beth Horon. Let's get into this, right? So now we know who some of the descendants of Ephraim are, right? We know that Joshua went into the promised land. He took over where Moses failed. Joshua, an Ephraimite. Let's keep going because now we're talking about Shirah, right? I want to show you something real quick about Shirah, guys. I ain't going to spend a long time here because I told y'all before that I have to get into the mothers, right? Our matriarch. Because we only got one, but they're going to try to tell you two of them are our matriarch. Told y'all before, that's Judah's lie. Judah wants to make themselves relevant. The Creator has not made them relevant, okay? Remember, What portion do we have with the house of David? Let's go into our tents, Israel. Your tent is here, Israel, with Shira. All right? But notice what they're going to do with Shira. All right? The people with the pen. They're not going to give Shira, they ain't going to give Shira nothing. All right? Shira just vanishes. Her whole line just vanishes. All right, guys, look at this. She doesn't have a husband. That's pretty possible. She doesn't have a kid. You know, it's just like Shira just vanishes into thin ice. Sorry, into thin air, right? But hold on to the fact that Shira comes from Ephraim, doesn't she? Because look down here what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to link Shira to Jesse, right here. Grandchildren, Jesse ben Obed, the father, right here, of David. How is Shira related to Judah? Shira comes from Ephraim. Ephraim comes from Joseph. Joseph comes from Rachel, not Leah. But they can't help themselves. They always want to make Leah relevant. See Leah down here, guys? You see her. And you see Adina linked to Leah, right? Yeah, as it should be, because she's the one that gave birth to Dinah. Now look up here. You're going to see this reference to Milcah. Remember, guys, I told you about that? This is tricky Judah up to their shenanigans. So the trail to Shira runs cold. They don't want you to know how we go from Shira to Joshua. But thankfully, you know, the Torah fills it in for us. Shira built Beth Horon. All right? The upper and lower pools. Let's talk about it. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Shira because I just want to show y'all how we're getting to Judah. Watch this. Shira building the kingdom. Anyone ever heard of Shira? All right. Someone in our Bible study class suggested that we do a series on women in the Bible. I volunteered to lead the topic. Members take turn teaching the Sunday morning class. Fair use, guys, for the purposes of education, right? With a different topic and teachers every month or two. I love the way that the lively conversation or question will spark an idea for a future class, right? Okay. So the writer goes on to say down here, so now I'm having fun researching women in the Bible and planning this series. Anyone who leads a Bible study like this will bring her own life experience to the task. All right? I don't want to read too much about her nonsense. I just want to get to the good parts. Here we go, guys. Sorry for putting y'all through that. I found Shira while looking for information about Joseph's wife, Asenath. Asenath was Egyptian, would have been one of the earliest links in biblical genealogies to a, quote, African heritage, a topic that has generated interest in our Sunday morning discussions. Asenath might be one of the women we'd like to know more about. Shira was a granddaughter or great-granddaughter of Joseph, okay, guys, and Asenath, mentioned in a list of descendants of Ephraim. His daughter was Shira, who built Lower and Upper Beth Horon, as well as Uzan Shira, guys, which means listen to Shira. That is all it says. These cities are mentioned elsewhere in the Bible, but there's nothing more about the builder. Okay, guys, they're going to keep mentioning this city, but they're not going to talk about the person who built it. I searched online for information, and it doesn't seem to be any more solid information. But I see that Shira has captured many people's imaginations, causing many to write and think and wonder about her story. Okay, guys, so like this woman says, they're not going to tell you much about Shira, but for some reason, you know, the city is just going to keep showing up, probably because it's one of the first cities built that we hear about. Okay, that is from a descendant that's later conquered back. This area is conquered back, right, by Joshua. So from the looks of it, we got the upper and the lower pools. Later on, Solomon comes to try to take over this area, okay? And we're going to talk about that too. All right, but like this lady says, they're never going to mention anything more about Shira. You're going to search online and there is going to be nothing. All right, like I showed you already in her genealogy. They don't want you to know who Shira is, guys. But Shira comes from Ephraim. And from Ephraim comes Joshua, son of Nun. Right, guys? So we need to know about this Beth Horon, right? You know about this city. All right, so what are the possible meanings for this city? All right, we got two possible meanings here, right? House of the hollow, right? Or the house of freedom. Etymology from the noun Beth, house, and the noun hollow or Freeman. All right, guys, and you're going to see multiple names up here that could very well be associated with the spelling of this name. The name Beth Horon in the Bible. There are two towns named Beth Horon in the Bible. It's the upper and lower Beth Horon, which were built by Ephraim's daughter, Shira. Much later, King Solomon would fortify both Beth Horons. All right, so it's telling you right here, like I told you, that King Solomon going to come around later on and try to do some nonsense. But never forget that it was Ephraim's daughter, Shira, who built this city. The region of the Beth Horons was close to the Makeda, which feature a cave large enough for the Amorite kings to hide in. Right, when Joshua came and invaded the Promised Land, there were these 5 kings, guys, that hid in this cave. So this is the same area. All right, let's read about it. It was large enough for the 5 kings to hide, and that happened in the awesome battle. They threw stones at the enemy, and the sun and the moon stood still while the battle raged. Right, these 5 kings hid in a cave while Joshua asked for the sun and the moon to stay still. Y'all don't find that strange? They are hiding from the sunlight. Y'all don't find that strange? I told you before. The Creator asked for these kings' heads before and asked that they be hanged towards the sun. But I don't have time to get into that because I'm too busy right now trying to prove the most pettiest of things, that Judah betrayed Israel. So before we can get into why these men are hiding in caves potentially, why Joshua is asking for the sun and the moon to stand still while he's fighting these enemies, we got to get into the betrayal. I got to get y'all to believe me before I can give y'all some of the crazy stuff that we're finding. All right, let's keep going. Upper and Beth Horon were situated, we're right here, somewhere at the southern end of the territory of Ephraim, of Joseph. And later the village was given to the Kohathite Levites. How? Who gave them something? The Levites aren't supposed to have a portion. Oh my goodness, guys. Keep on going. Lower Beth Horon marked the border of Benjamin, which is the border between Benjamin and Ephraim. All right. At the Battle of Beth Horon, Jewish rebels pelted the 12th Legion with darts and stones and finally destroyed it. Remember, the archers hated Ephraim, and they tried to strike him. Remember, the archers tried to strike Ephraim. All right, this sounds a lot like that. Okay, guys. All right, Vespasian invaded Galilee, and his son Titus besieged and sacked Jerusalem. This is all happening in Beth Horon. The name Beth Horon is spelled in Joshua and is the same, but without a Mekep. All right. I'm not worried about the etymology. I want to get down here, guys, because I think this is interesting. For the meaning of the name Beth Horon, Bible name list reads House of the Hollow. And Alfred Jones, who sees the extension as a mere intensifier, suggesting the place of the great cavern, a place of a hole or hollow. But right down here, the name Beth Horon obviously also means house of the freemen, or rather, house of freedom, or house of personal sovereignty, which ties in neatly with the redemptive essence, right? So they're saying that this is tying in neatly with the idea that, much like I told you, Shiloh, guys, a lot of these people who are writing about this know of, they know it's hidden, okay, guys? But anyway, Beth Horon was actually a house of freedom, okay? This is why, house of the free man, okay? All right, guys? Now, I think this is so funny, right? That while we're talking about cities, right, guys? And while we're talking about the names of some of these cities, right, guys? So we done talked about how we got from Joseph to Ephraim and a descendant of Ephraim's, and how from that descendant we got Beth Horon. Now let's talk about another city, right, guys? This city's been around for a while. This city's called Hebron, right? So I start researching the names of these cities, and I think this is really interesting. All right. Hebron can also translate into Chevron, guys. All right. Hebron, a league or confederacy. Anybody ever tell y'all that Hebron, which translates to Chevron, means confederacy? I think it's really funny that we're dealing with these two cities, right? And one of the cities' names, one of our first cities, is supposed to translate into Freeman. Right, guys? Right? Reminds you of the Battle of the North and the South, don't it? Kind of reminds you of the Civil War, don't it? Where the Freemen were fighting. They were fighting. What were the Freemen fighting, guys? At least they were trying to fight, right? They were trying to fight a confederacy. Right, guys? Yeah, they were. That other Battle of the North and South that we heard about, right? While we've been distracted from this Battle of the North and the South, quite possibly. Do y'all get this? Two cities, okay, that are in our book translate to Freeman, which is associated with Ephraim, and the other city associated with David and Judah translates to Confederacy. Let's keep going. Hebron, one of the most ancient and important cities in southern Palestine, now known to the Muslims as Al-Khalil. The city is some 20 miles south of Jerusalem, which was in Judah, guys, situated in an open valley above sea level. History of the city. Hebron is said to have been rounded before Zon in Egypt. Its ancient name was Kirth Araba, probably meaning the four cities. Right? Reminds me of the four corners, guys. Perhaps because divided at one time into four quarters. Right? Didn't I just tell y'all? Reminds me of the four corners. I didn't even know that was right there. Check that out. But according to Jewish writers, so called because four patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Adam. Didn't I tell y'all Adam is not linked to Israel through his genealogy? So I don't even know why they have Adam in this genealogy. Adam is linked to Rome. I showed y'all that already in disgruntled Adam. So Adam is not linked to Israel. So what four patriarchs are they talking about here? According to Joshua, it was also called after Arba, the father of Anak. Let's talk about the patriarchal period. Abram, because it wasn't Abraham yet. Remember, guys? He was brought down after Sarah was raised up to chief. All right? The Creator checked this patriarchy, all right? This confederacy of the patriarchy. All right? Abraham dwelt by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. Okay? This confederacy goes way back. From here, he went to rescue of Lot. Here, his name was changed to Abraham. Right. He was demoted, thanks to our Creator. To this place came the three angels with the promise of a son. Right. The Saracens, Sarah died here for the sepulchre. Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah, which is the cave of the doubles, where I told you Rachel is not buried. Only Leah is buried here, guys. All right, let's keep going. So in the time of, let's keep reading because I want to prove everything I say to y'all, right? Let me go back up here. The cave of Machpelah. Here Isaac and Jacob spent much of their lives. From here Jacob sent Joseph to see his brethren, and hence Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt. In the cave of Machpelah, all the patriarchs and their wives, except Rachel, were buried. Thankfully, our mother is not buried there. Anyway, let's keep going. Time of Joshua and the judges. This is how this city keeps going about, guys. Now watch this. The spies visited Hebron near there, cut the cluster of grapes. And Hoham, king of Hebron, was one of the 5 kings defeated by Joshua at Beth Horon. All right, this is our city. This is our city, Beth Horon, that Shira built. Joshua defeated them there. Let's keep going. And slain at Makkedah, right? Caleb drove out from Hebron the 3 sons of Anak. So they were still there, guys. Anak was still in the city. It became one of the cities of who? Judah. So rather than Judah honoring Beth Horon, Judah wants to honor Hebron. Okay? And it now becomes a city of who? Judah. Right here. It became, right here, let's go, one of cities of Judah. Judah's more worried about Hebron than Haran. Let's keep going. Why does Judah want this place? The days of the monarchy. David, when a fugitive, received kindness from the people of this city. Here Abner was treacherously slain by Joab at the gate, and the sons of Rimmon, after their hands and feet had been cut off, were hanged beside the pool. After the death of Saul, David was here anointed king. So David is anointed in the city of the Confederacy king and reigned there 7 years until he was captured. While there, he has 6 sons. Interesting. In this city, Absalom found a center of his disaffection and repairing there under the pretense of forming a vow to the Creator. Later on, we're going to see that Hebron, they don't care too much about Hebron after they get everything their way. It goes on to Edom, guys. But it's much like I said, this town of the Confederacy becomes a city of Judah. You would have thought that Judah would have been more concerned with Beth Horon, right? You know? But for some reason, they were so concerned, not with the Freemen, but more with the, oh no, what am I pressing, y'all? I'm pressing all kinds of stuff. They were concerned more with, that Confederacy, guys. Right here. They were too busy forming leagues. Just like I told y'all. All right, guys, this is what Judah was associating themselves with. This was Judah's preferred residency in Hebron, while Ephraim, with Joshua, is defeating kings that are hiding in caves at Beth Horon, the upper and lower pools that Ephraim's daughter built, Shira. This is what these cities testify to. And I had to take y'all on this journey before we can talk about what happened, how Judah activated Assyria to come on in and sweep Israel off its land. We'll talk about that next week. Then, guys, we're going to get into those wells of Joseph because they're promised to step over that wall, guys. Let Mother guide you. Much, much love to all of my subscribers. I thank you guys for tuning in every week. Much love to you guys from the front line. Take care.